Well, good night, everybody. It's just before 7, and we wanted to make sure that we were all technically savvy. And just while we're waiting for people to log on in, I want to thank you for joining us for the Christmas mental health check-in and how we can prepare emotionally for the festive season. So before we begin talking about that, I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners on the land on which we work. So we acknowledge that we're here today on the land of the Gayamagal people, part of the Eora Nation. Gayamagal are the traditional owners of this saltwater country and are part of the oldest surviving continuous culture in the world. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. So I thought tonight, because we're coming up to that time of year, it's the 26th of November, Christmas is around the corner. I don't know about you, but it always catches me unaware, and suddenly it's nearly upon us. And, I've got to make plans about how I'm spending the day, who I'm spending it with. And so we thought it might be a good idea to have a little bit of a talk about the mental health check-in space that we can approach this time of year. So for many people, this time is a joyful time. It's a time of togetherness. We're recommitting and reconnecting with family that we may not see for the rest of the year. But for many others, it brings a unique challenge, or many challenges. So it's especially around our mental health. And oftentimes, I don't know about you, but I've often gone into this period of the world, and I may be dating myself here, but I've wanted to create the Brady Bunch Christmas, and I've probably ended up with something more like The Simpsons. But in any event, I've had high expectations. There's often social pressures, and even family dynamics around this period can make Christmas an emotionally complex time. It's also a very difficult period for those of us who may be approaching Christmas for the first time after the loss of a family member. So although there's other family members that want to celebrate, and maybe children, we can be feeling a deep sense of grief as we approach the time without someone that we love. So we're preparing mentally for the season, and what we want to talk about tonight is helping you to navigate the ups and downs and draw on that resilience and self-care that is so important for all of us. So we've broken it up into 4 or 5 different aspects. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about both. And the first one, I guess, is setting reasonable expectations. How can we learn to manage our expectations and reduce holiday stress and maintain emotional balance? I know that oftentimes people will say to me, clients will often talk about coming into this period, they've been working hard to get to the end of the year, they're getting stuff all organised to try and have a harmonious time with their family and to have a bit of a break. And they approach the time with a fair degree of tiredness. And of course they're going into a holiday period where there's no structure. Now, for many of us who are in recovery, structure during the year can be tiresome, but of course the other side of that is we can go into the Christmas period where there's no structure and we can get a bit lost with that. So I think it's very important to manage our expectations and understand what it is about ourselves that needs to be nurtured during this time. And I know it's a period where we're giving to other people, but as always, I've said to clients, please put yourself at the top of the list. And I do not mean, everyone knows me, I do not mean selfishly. I mean, what do I need to take care of myself so that I approach this period with some sense of my own self-care, so that I can then be of service to others. In fact, I read a very interesting piece recently where somebody was talking about the difference between fixing the people in their life, and I know we've all had a chance at doing that, and being of service to the people in our life. And I don't mean a doormat. What I mean is that we're not going into Christmas thinking I'm going to fix that uncle or that mother or that child or that sibling. I'm going to change him, her, it, so that I can feel more comfortable in the family setting. What we want to be really, and our sense of our own worth will be, how can I be of service to the family system? Now, for those of you that have very traumatic histories with your family, that may be an impossible task for now. And that's okay. You don't have to do it. If we're going to go into being with a family, being with the group, the family, whatever that looks like for you, and our families are very complex these days. They're not necessarily just one family. They may be blended. There may be other people coming in. There could be cousins, aunties, uncles. Could be all sorts of people. But what we need to do is go into a place where we can, how can I be of service? What can I take? And make sure that we're making, setting limits for how we manage it. So, for example, if you think that you can arrive, an hour before dinner's served or lunch is served or whatever you're eating, stay for the duration of the meal, stay for another hour and then go, then that's what you do. And sometimes it's helpful to actually let your host know that you will only stay for a specific period of time. So you're not sitting there feeling guilt-ridden because you actually want to get up and leave. When we're managing, the second one's managing the family dynamics once we get there. So when we're dealing with complex family relationships and the difficult emotions that may arise during the gatherings, always give yourself an opportunity to take time out. Go to the bathroom, go and sit in the garden, go out to the car, whatever it is you've got to do so that you don't lose your cool, so they're not looking at you like you're the crazy one, and you're allowed to have emotions, feel them, but Christmas Day does heighten everything. I don't think there's ever been a Christmas Day where people haven't felt very overwhelmed, particularly if there's been very complex family dynamics. In my instance, I know that what I will do is I'll spend time with my family, but because I want to spend it with my immediate family as opposed to the broader big one on Christmas Day, I have a Christmas Eve lunch, and I invite the people that I love the most to that. The grandchildren, my daughter, my son-in-law, her godmother, another couple of very dear friends of mine will come, and sometimes their kids might come too. And that's, for me, the true meaning of Christmas Eve. I can then, once I've had my cup filled by my family, I can then turn up to the Christmas Day and I put a time limit on how long I stay. Arrive with gifts, food, whatever's asked of me, and then I leave. And I always plan to do something lovely afterwards, like go for a walk with a dog, have a swim, defrag after the event. So I'm very conscious that it is an emotionally charged day, even for someone like me who's been in recovery for a long time and who's managed a lot of the difficult emotions in the family system. When really specific difficult emotions rise, if you can feel they're starting to escalate and you think you're going to be drawn into something and you may not be able to manage it, you can't regulate, you can't breathe your way through it, can't go to the car for 20 minutes and get your head together and then come back in and just, stay in here, you might have to quietly actually say to the host, look, I'm going to leave. I'm just going to go and I won't make a fuss, and you get out of there. If you're in early recovery, or even if you're in recovery and you think that this might be the case, I'd always be suggesting to you that you make a call to your trusted support people, your friends, sponsor, before you go in. Have a game plan ready. Go in, do the Christmas Day function, and then quietly leave and check in afterwards. There are also, for those of you in 12-step recovery, and many of you would know this, there will be certain groups that have all-day meetings. They'll be putting on a bit of a lunch or something. they'll have meetings on and off during the day. I think there's actually one at Newtown that I know of. Rainbow Recovery usually has something. I mean, there's a lot of these for people that don't have family and that are very much at a loose end. And if that's you, if you're sitting in a space where you don't have the family, perhaps you're estranged from them, perhaps you're still being excluded in some way, then I would make a plan to spend it with people that are like you in early recovery, that want to have a peaceful day without putting yourself at risk. And if that's the case, then going to a meeting and being around the orbit of other people who are in the same position as you will help you navigate that. And who knows, you might be of service to somebody else who's in a worse space than you are, and that's often happened in my life. The other thing a lot of people do, of course, is they volunteer to help, Wayside Chapel or in Sydney, and Reverend Bill Cruz at Ashfield, and they'll go along and they'll do that. Now, I've suggested that to a few clients and said, take a mate, take someone else who's in the same position as you are, because not everybody has that family system available to them. I think it's critical to create a self-care plan for yourself. You have to prioritise your mental health. If you're in early days in recovery, or even if you're not, we need to be setting up ideas where we can take a rest, we can relax in the middle of the festivities. Even if you're, there's a big family function, or you're at a function and you're starting to feel a little too uncomfortable, grab someone, say, let's go for a walk, let's go for a swim. You can be away for an hour, come back, it's okay. I don't think anyone's really going to mind, but they're going to mind if you relapse, and they're going to mind if you lose it, and throw the turkey from one end of the house to the other. They're going to mind about that. So always the priority has to be, what do you want? Like, what I always say to clients, how do you create the Christmas that you crave? What does it look like for you? Do you put a tree up in your own home? Do you not? Do you put some decorations around? Do you not? Do you buy yourself a gift? I can remember years and years ago saying, because I had a lot of terrible times with Christmas in my early years, and I can remember saying to an old friend of mine one day, how do I manage it? And he said, you create the Christmas you crave. What do you want it to look like? Get some people together that are in the same position as you are. And he said, it's a day. And like all of those early days in our recovery, we break it down. Well, I can get through the morning, then I can do the lunch, then I can get to a meeting. So you break down the day so that you're not in a position where you're feeling like, I have to do hours at this festivity when I'm not feeling like it. Because trust me, if you're feeling uncomfortable and it elevates within you, everybody else is going to know anyway. So you're better off to take off and take a walk. I think it's important to do things that soothe you. It might be, look, ice bath are all the go, aren't they? Have a swim. Hopefully it's a hot day. Take a walk with a friend. Try not to overeat. Pretty hard to do on a Christmas, I know, but that never helps us either. Those are some of the things that are coming to mind about how to manage yourself on the day. Now, if we take a step back from that, just the actual day, when we're moving up to it, so we've got, a few weeks, and then it's Christmas Day and Boxing Day. I think it's important, and you may need to do this with your friend, sponsor, therapist, to identify your potential emotional triggers and then take the steps to take healthy breaks when you need to. And the emotional triggers could be a person, they could be the fact that you haven't slept well the night before, they could be the fact that suddenly someone else is in the family and you feel like they're being included in a way that you were never. We can make up a whole story about everything when we're feeling like we're at a low ebb. And it's really important to understand what the emotional triggers are. And you recall earlier I said, when you're about to walk in, or on your way to the event, you ring someone. You ring your sponsor, you ring your friend, you just check in. I'm checking in, I'm going in. You have your plan. I'm staying for 2 hours, I'm staying for 4 hours. I'm going to stay for 2 and then come out and see how I am, come and call you. Because you don't know that you're not helping them as much as you're helping yourself. So please always do that. Know what the emotional triggers are, and put something in place to look after yourself. The critical thing, and I've mentioned this a few times, is reaching out for support. If you have support within your family system, whatever your family system looks like, by the way, it may be necessary to actually have a chat with someone in the family about the fact that you will need extra support. And sometimes it's enough to actually say, look, I think Christmas might be a bit difficult for me. I think being with everybody might be difficult. Would it be okay if I just came for an hour? They won't mind. If they love you and they want you to get through the family of the Christmas period intact, they will do whatever they can to support you. Sometimes I think we believe we've got to know how to do things before we've ever done them. The trick about recovery is that this will be, if it's for the first time or the second or even the third time you're doing Christmas sober, or without any sort of substance, or without any acting out behaviour, it will be difficult. There's no doubt about that. But it will only be as difficult as we allow it to be if we don't ask for the support. And sometimes allowing our loved ones to lean in and help us means that our connection with them is more significant. They want to help often. And often they don't know what we need because, of course, we've usually gone through life and not told them, not said anything. Well, yep, she's right. Yep, no, I'm good. Yep, good. No. It's like, well, actually, it's going to be a bit of a difficult day, so there's a meeting on at whatever time. I'd like to get to that, and would it be okay if I came for 2 hours, an hour, or whatever it is you think you need, Or can I play it by ear on the day? And you can always go and say hello to everyone and leave. You don't even have to do any more than that. So I think we have extraordinary view about how we should do Christmas. So the questions really are, where am I? If we're talking about triggers and we're talking about getting support, where am I in relation to my connection with family and friends, or the people I'll be spending Christmas with? What sort of support do I need to get through that? Knowing that we have to emotionally prepare for Christmas, we have to actually take steps to look after ourselves and at the same time ask for what we need in our family system. I believe we need a clear intention of how we'd like the day to look. Now, sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not. But if we don't start with a clear intention, that is, I want to get through the day sober and clean and not acting out. I want to get through the day without having an argument with anybody and losing it, or upsetting anybody, and least of all myself. What sort of boundaries may I need to set now, because we've got some weeks to have these conversations now before we get too much closer to the day. And the boundaries will be important. They are the sort of thing that say, I could stay for an hour, I can't do this, I can do that. I think I'm capable of doing this. I need your support. Would it be okay with? If I'm going to leave early, I'm going to quietly have a word with you, and then I won't make a big fuss and you can tell everyone I've gone. All of those things. Because it won't stay the way it is now for you. This will pass. At some point, I can remember when I had my daughter in recovery, suddenly I had to create a Christmas for her. So any bar humbug I had about Christmas prior to that I had to, get Christmas trees and decorate houses and buy, cut up carrots so the reindeers looked like they'd been eating, and put some footmarks like Santa had been in the house and things like that. So my sense of Christmas started to change because I started to look at it through her eyes, with the wonder of the sense of being in service to her, and the joy for her to have this wonderful period in her life. I was driving the other day with my 2 grandchildren, and one's 9 and one's 7, and I was taking them to do a bit of Christmas shopping so they could pick a few things they wanted, and they were in the back seat, and we're tootling down the main road, and I said, so what's happening, in terms of Santa? Have you written letters? No, we haven't written letters. You have to get the letters off before Halloween. I said, oh, do you? And they went, yeah, it's too late now, can't do the letters. I said, what are we going to do then? How's Santa going to know what you want? Oh, no, because all those Santas in the shops. I said, yeah. They said, they're not real Santas, I said, aren't they? And they went, no, they're not real Santas. I said, well, what are they? She said, they're like elves. And they take it all back to Santa and they tell him. Now, the excitement and the wonder of this festive season in the car that day, and it went on, and they've recently, moved into a new home, and a friend was with me and she said, oh, well, will he know where you're living? And they went, oh. And then one of them, this little one, 7-year-old, said, oh, yeah, Santa sees everything. He knows exactly where. He's watching us now, they said to me. I mean, it was just a delight to listen to them. And I went into that day of shopping with them, it was only a few hours of shopping with them, with this sort of wonder about the possibility for them. Not for me, for them. And it was joyful. Okay, so we're going to wind it up in a minute. I want you to think about a couple of things. The clear intention for the day and the period. The boundaries. I'd like you to just think about also, if you've got resentments about your family now, I'd be liking you to go and talk to your therapist or a sponsor about how you can navigate those and how you can work with them. And that's a whole other session all by itself. I want you to go in with a self-care plan. How do I look after myself? What meetings am I going to? How can I connect with the people that are meaningful to me? Have I got my therapist appointments in place? What friends have I got that I can access that aren't away, because a lot of people travel during this time? And how can I ask for the support I need from my friends, from my fellowship friends, and from my sponsor? And you have a very solid plan then about going into it with support all around you. And for those in recovery, you push yours, take your higher power with you wherever you go. So I'm hoping that's helpful. I'm not seeing any comments. No comments. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope that's been helpful for you. Please, day at a time. That's all you're doing. Half a day at a time if the day's too long. And make sure you look after yourself first, because no one will thank you if you don't. It can be a joyful time. It can be a loving time. And it can be a time of great healing for many of us who are estranged from our families. Reasonable expectations, boundaries, self-care plan. So thank you for joining us. And I'll see you on the other side of this probably in January, I think. Take care of yourselves and be kind to yourself, and don't forget, create the Christmas that you crave. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe.